Hello, everybody. Today we continue our NHL season review with Montreal Canadiens. And even though Montreal is one of the great teams and original NHL 6 team, they have been struggling recently. Tommy, how do you see Montreal chances this season to proceed to playoffs and improve their positions from last year? That was fifth last in Eastern Conference.
Montreal is playing in a pretty tough division with the Canadian teams, and first of all, this was actually the first small surprise in our simulations that we predicted that Montreal is second to last in that Canadian division right after Ottawa. In the odds, Winnipeg and Vancouver are predicted lower than Canadiens. The Canadiens team is not very suited probably for this new system of play. They're not exactly a playoff style team, and even though they did well last year in these very extraordinary circumstances, beating Pittsburgh and challenging Philadelphia as well in the weird playoff format, it's unlikely that they're able to challenge the tougher teams in the Canadian division. But how have we done in predicting the Canadiens in the past?
Montreal has been a bit difficult to predict, and there's not too many categories where bettors have been making profit if betting for Montreal. Away games, especially straight money line, has been one category that would make sense to bet. That has been profitable during the last 3 years, but there hasn't been too much expected value in those games, most probably because the odds for the Canadiens have been quite low, even though we have predicted correctly them to win in away games. And especially on those away games, the first game on the road has been good for the bettors, so Montreal has been prepared for the road game and played pretty well in those games. Another highlight that be good to mention, generally the road games and then the longer road trips have been also good. So basically whenever Montreal is on the road, it would be good to check if there are high enough odds to bet. And when there's a new alignment with the Canadian teams, you mentioned that they may not be suited well for the type of play, but how about any new players that are more aligned with Canadian type of hockey?
Yeah, it's obvious that Montreal was known to be this small, fast team, but they were pretty much run over sometimes by the tougher teams like Boston, for example. So they added Tyler Toffoli, Josh Anderson, and Joel Edmondson in the offseason. Excuse me. Of course, Josh Anderson has been injured for a long time, didn't really return with a lot of production. So it was a bit of a questionable trade, getting rid of Max Domi and bringing in Josh Anderson. But we'll see how it plays out for the team. Like I said, they did really well in the playoffs last season, but it was a weird situation. So the young players did step up somewhat. Nick Suzuki especially was the highlight of the season for the Canadiens. The team is not really that much better than last year, so it will be really a tough challenge for them in the Canadian conference division. How about the matchups in our simulations?
Yeah, in a past they have played, of course, quite a bit with Toronto and Ottawa, and I think against Ottawa they have been playing very well. Out of 12 games, they won 9, so winning percentage 75. And if you would bet for Montreal, you would be making money in basically every category, money line, totals for those games. But interesting topic is that when they are now playing more games against other Canadian teams like Calgary and Vancouver, those earlier intra-conference games have been quite good for Montreal because they won 5 out of 6 for both teams, Calgary and Vancouver, in the past 3 seasons, and it would be interesting to see, especially on the road, how Montreal will play against them in upcoming season.
Yeah, that's a very interesting take because Calgary at least has been remarkably better team than Canadiens in the past couple of seasons, but Canadiens have been able to beat them, especially on the road. So there's something to definitely keep an eye out. For the team itself, Canadiens is still led by Shea Weber, of course, in the defense, Carey Price in the goal, both top level in the NHL. They have quite a good balance in defense, especially defensively. It will be a tough team to score against, but they are lacking a little bit in the offense. There is not a surefire star caliber player. Of course, there is a couple of guys then, Brendan Gallagher and Philippe Danault, who would probably slot into any offense in this league, but still, like, they probably would need another Taylor Hall type scoring winger or a playmaker in the team. Thomas Tatar played a really good season last year, almost point per game, and if he's able to produce more and find his stride again, it's something to look out for. The young guys, like I said, Nick Suzuki, breakthrough season last year, have very high expectations in Montreal. Jesperi Kotkaniemi as well, the Finnish guy, should take some leaps. He started well, but kind of faded out a little bit by the end of the season. So there are interesting young guys as well, but like I said, they're still lacking a little bit of the star power, and we'll see how they will be matching up against these very skilled teams like Edmonton, Toronto, and if it becomes a playoff style battle, Montreal might not have what it takes.
Yeah, the playoffs setup was a bit weird, like you mentioned, a year ago, and we predicted Montreal to be 9th in regular season, so missing playoff in a razor-thin margin. But I think if it would be standard season, our predictions would be pretty correct, what we did before the last season. However, 2 years ago, we predicted Montreal to go under. They performed quite a bit better than it was expected, both by our simulations and by Vegas line that time. But 3 years ago, it was vice versa. So we predicted them under, that they were under quite clear margin. So do you think this time they would beat expectations?
This time around, I think they will be underwhelming again. Like I said, it's such a tough division to play in, and I can't see them really beating other teams than Ottawa constantly in there. So I think they are still lingering under this season as well.
Very good. Do you think there would be any other good bets for Montreal? Of course, there's a lot of Montreal fans that are expecting them to win Stanley Cup this season, but is that something that you would bet with current odds available?
With the current odds, not really, no, because it's first of all very tough for them to reach the playoffs, and you have to reach the playoffs to win the Stanley Cup. So I would stay away from the Canadiens this time around.
Okay, we'll see how it goes and save our money for better bets.
Definitely.